Very much. Oh, we continue our candidate interviews, our candidate forum today with we've got Yakima County coroner candidate Dan Williams in the house. Dan, you the funeral director and embalmer with Ball Chapel at Lower Valley Memorial Gardens in Sunnyside, and welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you.
Did I get that right? Did I get all the titles right there?
Actually the manager there at Ball Chapel and the cemetery down there.
Excellent. Formerly at Sean's Sons here in Yakima, right?
Yep, for almost 7 years.
Well, tell us about who's Dan Williams. Tell us about Dan. Some of your background. You got family where you living? Just tell us about Dan.
Yep. Well, I was born and raised here in Yakima. Went to Davis High School. Graduated from Davis High School in 1999. I have 4 boys and a wife that pretty much take up the rest of my time.
I bet. Yeah.
What free time I do get as a funeral director. Like I said, I've been a funeral director for almost 7 years now.
Well, that being the case, I mean, that really kind of does prep you for the 24/7, you never know when you're going to be needed sort of thing that the coroner would have to do, doesn't it?
Very much so. Yeah. I've done thousands of calls at nighttime in the middle of the night, and those calls, I see, you'd be surprised on how awake I sound at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, you have to. I totally understand.
Are you still president of the Parker Youth and Sports Organization?
I am.
President of Central Washington Funeral Directors Association?
Yes, I am.
And coaches youth baseball and basketball in SELA?
Yep, and the Yakima National Little League as well. I just didn't have as much time with the funeral director side of it as much as I would love to.
Yeah.
So with that kind of busy schedule, and I guess, how do I say this tactfully? I think we're dealing with the coroner, so I don't know that you have to be tactful because we're talking about the deceased. But we don't see enough of that in your day job that you would want to do it on behalf of everybody in the county. Why consider this move?
Just because it's needed here in Yakima. Like I said, it's that person that needs to have the compassion, the character, and the communication with everybody too. I said I've worked very closely with them for the last 7 years, and that's why I said I'm running. I've sat across from hundreds of families and homicide victim families, suicide victim families, just regular death families too. And that person needs to have that role and have that compassion in their heart to serve and that purpose. And yes, there is a job to do, and I very much plan on doing that job. And there's ways to do that job with communicating with the family in a compassionate way. And that's, my big part of who I am is helping people. And you could talk to anybody that I've helped on the funeral home side is, that's what it is. It's, you have a job to do and get you from point A to point B, but with compassion and character and leadership.
Well, it certainly seems from the activities that you choose to be involved in, in sports and kids and within your organization, you have a track record that speaks to that. So I guess... But this puts you into politics, and in politics, there's never a clear-cut picture. So, are you ready for the political side? I mean, granted, the coroner kind of gets to be isolated and do its own thing. We don't really hear that much about the specifics until every 4 years comes along. But it is a political position, and you will have deal with. Maybe other jurisdictions seeing it differently than you do when you go to a scene. And do you have investigative background yourself? Would you run the office the same, or what would be the difference in terms of, besides the human element, how you would run the office versus how it's being run now?
I would run it right now. Like I said, we're the smallest budget in the county for the largest county, almost 4,300 square miles that we cover with 2 people. And that's a big thing right there. And so my plan would be to get extra help in there. And there are resources that are available that currently are not being utilized. And I've talked to those other county coroners throughout the state, and there's free trainings and those kind of things as well too. So not just have to borrow part-time, funeral home removal people. No, get those.
33.9 years. Yeah.
That's much younger than I would have thought.
Yeah.
Maybe that's because every time I look in the mirror looking for a 33-year-old, I don't find one. Maybe that's why.
Oh,
you ever think of that?
Yeah, that's for sure.
All right. Well, 8:27. We're going to be out of time here, so we want to do what we always do, and that's give you a chance to make that doorbell ring and speech. You got about a minute of focused attention. Why should Yakima County vote for Dan Williams, Dan?
Well, I appreciate it. Like I said, once again, thank you for giving us a voice, because not very many people will give us a voice on this time. I'm very compassionate about what I do. I'm very hardworking. It comes from a hardworking father and a compassionate mother. And that's what it boils down to. My mom was a caregiver for, her whole life until she had her stroke about a year ago. And, and that's what the fire in my belly that drives me. Like I said, I'm very dedicated to Yakima County. It's an amazing place to live. We get a bad rap most of the time. But you know what? I will do what I say. I'm not a politician. I'm not going to make false promises. Everything I say is the truth, and I speak to that, and I will live up to it. And I just, like I said, appreciate all the support that I've got so far, and great to you guys for reaching out to us like this, because like I said, once again, it is hard to get people to listen for a coroner's race, but I truly appreciate what you guys do.
Well, you got a lot of ears on you this morning. I think a lot of people, I was at the meeting last night for a while, the Republican meeting last night, and so many people have said they've really appreciated this opportunity to hear from folks that in a race that they wouldn't normally hear from, and that certainly would be in your case, Dan. So a lot of folks are tuned in, want to hear what you have to say, and want to make an informed decision. In the event that you get through the primary, we look forward to having you back and maybe poking around a little bit more into the specifics of what you would do differently or what have you. But for now, it's a great opportunity to get to meet what appears to be a very fine gentleman. So thank you very much for
sure appreciate
your
it.
coming
Thank
in.
you.